Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. This show is going to be a little bit controversial, right? And it centers on a controversial topic, which is this speculation that some people have about LeBron James possibly taking performance-enhancing drugs, right? There have been people out there that have been making comments over the years that have left some people saying, well, something going on here, something going on here. If you look at the way that he's playing at his advanced age, it's unprecedented, right? Of course, we've had individuals like Chael Sonnen go out there and make some strong comments about LeBron and saying he knows the person that LeBron gets his stuff from. He's done that before. Some people have reacted to that. Kevin Garnett earlier last year said something about LeBron on that Balco juice or whatever it is, on that Balco, that new Balco or something like that. We reacted to that, and people have pushed back on it, right? But it's something that's not really discussed. The reason it's not discussed, I believe, is because if something like that ever came out, it would absolutely blow up the internet. It would destroy the world, basically. It would just be too big of a piece of news, right? So it's rarely discussed. So yesterday I was just going through the internet and I came across a video that was recommended to me from the Dan Lebron show. And you guys know Dan Lebron is with the DraftKings network. He used to work at ESPN. And the video had the following title saying, "The crew goes after Dan for his LeBron HGH comments," right? It was about an 18-minute or so segment. So I clicked on it to hear what was being said, right? What was being said. And Dan Lebron was essentially saying, look, is anybody not noticing that this doesn't seem normal? Is anybody not noticing that this doesn't seem normal? And I forgot his co-host, the black guy. I know his name. I've seen him on ESPN a bunch of times. Please forgive me. I forgot his name, and unfortunately, they didn't put his name in the bottom of the credits here, so they're not actually showing who he is. But I forgot his name, but he's obviously well known. And when you hear his voice, Amin, right? I think Amin. And he immediately starts going after Dan Lebron for saying this. And it created this very awkward, heated back and forth where they were basically trying to shut him down. Why would you even bring up this kind of question? And I was like, wow, this is pretty intense. But Dan Lebron did push back, and he did make his points clear why he was saying it should be a question. So what we'd like to do now is we'd like to play some of the key parts for you where you could listen to kind of everybody chiming in, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to these guys here.
What other bad takes did we have yesterday?
Okay, so all right. Clearly, I was building up to this point. Dan, you can speculate how, it's a wonder that PEDs aren't more prevalent in basketball the way we know it is in football and baseball. What you cannot do, unequivocally, is put someone's name on it who does not have any history of it. I get what you're saying, but Dan, you got to remember, you're not Fran Lebitard or Dan Leibowitz. You're Dan Lebitard. There's a 20 under that. This show has been on the air for 20 years. You've been in the media for longer than that. When you even ask questions of that variety, you are creating something / giving voice or gas to something, no matter how unfounded it is. So you cannot say, well, Chael Sonnen said it. If Chael had just said it, if it had just come out, he was this week's guest on Andrew Schultz's show, then maybe that's an opening.
A newsworthy lane? You're talking about timeliness? It's a timeliness question where I can ask questions in we're gonna agree on this part, right? We're living in the skeptical age, right? The age of skepticism. And so if I just make it hypothetical athlete X, I don't even make it LeBron and everything you know. I simply say to you, what do you think is more likely? That an athlete would try and defy age through science at the end of his career, or that one athlete had a career that defied the limits of the human body, unlike any we've ever seen in terms of mileage and how his body holds up for 20 straight years. I'm assuming did Kareem have more minutes? I'm assuming LeBron James has played more minutes than anyone else. Which do you think is more likely?
I think if you put it as a if you frame it exactly as you framed it there are people who could say, we know who you're hinting at. But I think you stay on this, albeit very close to that line, on this side of the line of, okay, you can have that conversation.
But if I preface it, though, if I'm prefacing it with all that you know about me and my admiration for LeBron, combined with, hey, I'm not accusing anyone of anyone here. I'm trying to have the macro conversation around America's giant, biggest athlete for the last 2 decades, using him as a vehicle, as we talk about Mo Vaughn over here and Ekblad over there.
Right.
Using him as, you've got this unprecedented thing. Can you guys explain to me, America, why this is the line too far on your skepticisms?
So
when I'm not accusing him of anything. Dan, I'm just wondering why this is the place that you get this offended.
I'm offended because you said it, Dan. Because and as you say, my admiration for LeBron, you think it absolves you. What it does is it puts more credence in what you're just throwing out as a question. But for people to say, well, Dan Lebron always says nice things about LeBron and how he's coming to take everybody's stuff, and now he's asking whether he's doing PEDs. Dan, I'm just telling you how it received. You're not. I know you're not sending it out that way, but the message is being received that way because of who you are. It would be like, Dan. It would be like if I all of a sudden started talking about J. Cole having ghostwriters. But Amin loves J. Cole. He's just asking a question. How can this guy keep being creative and writing like this without ghostwriters, right? If I said that, given who I am to that person, then it allows people to say, wait a second, I thought this was just a barbershop conversation, but this guy who has all the credibility is bringing it and giving it credence. And so when you say America and skepticism and where's our skepticisms and all that, yes, it's right to be skeptical about things, but also we live in an age where cockamamie statements have been given credence by people we deem credible.
We're witnessing something that has no precedent for the human body. And I'm not even questioning it.
But
I'm asking why there aren't questions about it.
That's the same thing, Dan.
That's the same.
Dan,
like
you're bringing it up and saying
that's the problem.
In the content age, I'm about to explain to you the whys of it. I'm super interested in the reaction. I'm super interested in the macro conversation, and the athlete is, I can change it by the decade. It doesn't matter whether it's LeBron. I remember the way people behaved when we turned Maguire and Sosa into the people that we turned them into. And then over the last 20 years, everyone from Lance Armstrong to Barry Bonds to everyone else has been some form of a lie. And so this guy who has managed over 20 years to be a pillar that I've never seen in my journalism career, not just an international icon that has done almost everything the right way, also has as scientific fact behind him the fact that his body has held up better than any human body has ever under these conditions. And so I ask of America, not LeBron, why don't you ask why? Like, what happened over the last 20 years on this stuff where we just weren't curious about that and Tom Brady and all the stuff that allows these people to age 10 years beyond previous facts?
So you heard the exchange between Amin Elhassan and Dan Lebron. What are my thoughts on this? First of all, Amin is essentially saying, by you bringing this up, you are giving people ammunition. Because even though your intentions or your curiosity may be noble, other people may not have noble intentions. And they may use what you're saying as a linchpin to then go out there and say, you see, I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong. I told you. Dan Batard is saying it. So why are you giving this point of view a platform? But Dan is saying, based on what we are seeing, this isn't normal. It's not normal. He said, when we looked at other players like McGuire, Barry Bonds, Lance Armstrong, and all the other athletes from the past, we didn't shy away from asking these questions when we were speculating whether or not what they were doing is natural or not. So why should we give LeBron the benefit of the doubt? Now, I understand what Amin is saying, which is, look, if you don't have any substantial evidence or any real proof, then you should stay away from saying this. Now, if you notice our channel, we haven't produced any videos where we came out and said that because I have absolutely zero proof, right? There are people that have touched on it that have gone a little bit further than I have. And they've kind of referenced various stories like the clinic in Miami and all of that. But I don't have any real proof, so I try to be careful about talking about things like that because I simply don't have any proof. And I don't want to start defaming people and doing all of that and get myself into legal trouble because I think you need to be careful about those kind of things. So I've kind of steered clear based on the fact that I have no evidence. But this thing of, kind of letting LeBron get a pass, and it's like, well, we don't have any proof of this, so why speculate? That didn't stop people from speculating whether or not Michael Jordan had a hand in his father's demise. That didn't stop you, dudes. That never stopped you. As a matter of fact, it's something they still talk about today. Even the situation with Kobe Bryant when he got into that situation in Colorado, that mess. Even though the case was dismissed, people to this day, Kobe did it. Were you there? Were you there in the room? Do you have any proof of this? No, but it doesn't stop them. So he's like, why are we giving LeBron? Why are we giving him this grace? And if you listen carefully, well, I didn't play that part, but everybody was pushing back. Like they all went at Dan Lebron on this show. Now, as far as the J. Cole analogy, that was ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not illegal to have a ghostwriter in hip hop. You lose credibility. Yeah, you lose credibility, especially when people think you're writing your own rhymes, but it ain't illegal. It's not illegal. This is something totally different. So I get what he was trying to say, but it was a bad analogy. What I want to know from you guys is, whose side are you on this issue? Do you think that it's dangerous to bring up these kind of points, given the platform that Dan Batard has and the credibility that he has without any substantial proof? Or do you agree with Dan Batard by saying, why aren't people curious about this? Like, why is everybody so like, why are we just acting like as if what we're seeing is normal when it's not? As you guys know, Stephen A. Smith has been having his back and forth with LeBron James. Some people are now calling Stephen A. Smith a clout chaser. How can you clout chase off of yourself? How? You talking about it can be a clout chaser, but you can't be a clout chaser when it involves you. How is Stephen A. Smith clout chasing the situation when the situation is about him? Stephen A. Smith, for whatever we think about him, has clout. What Turk say from the Hot Boys? I'm clout. I'm clout. I'm clout. Stephen A. Smith has clout. If he didn't have clout, why would LeBron walk up to somebody that doesn't have clout any relevance? Like, let's stop the nonsense. It's involving him. He can talk about it as much as he wants. It's involving him. I can see if you see him, it's like LeBron approached somebody else and Stephen A. Smith is tall, man, he's trying to chase clout. Nah, it's about him, bro. You talking about him are the one chasing the clout, if we want to keep it technical. Like, let's stop with it's about him. It's about him. You can't say, you're trying to chase clout off of LeBron. Did Stephen A. Smith walk up to LeBron James or did LeBron James walk up to him? Like, I'm lost. Y'all know I'm not like the biggest Stephen A. Smith fan, but like, let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a stat. Like, let's stop. Let's stop. I know you may disagree with what he's saying or what he did, but like, stop. Like, LeBron walked up to him and he's reacting to it. And because Stephen A. Smith is who he is, a lot of people have been asking him about the exchange. Like when he went on Gil's Arena. Oh, he could be sitting down and have a thought and decide to talk about it. It's about him, not about you. Just wanted to point that out. So I was just chilling and I checked the Instagram, and someone sent me a video of Nick Wright on Bomani Jones's show. And they went on there, they had about a 50-minute discussion, and I couldn't watch it. So he sends me a clip, and I'm like, damn, where can I find the full clip? So he then sends me the full clip, so I go watch it. And essentially, they were talking about Bronny in this segment. And essentially what Nick Wright revealed was that LeBron James has refused to communicate or speak to Stephen A. Smith for over 10 years. And Nick Wright is saying, you need to be forthcoming about that. Tell the truth that LeBron has refused to speak to you for over 10 years. And maybe that's one of the reasons you keep going hard at him, at least in their eyes, the way you do. So what I want to do is I want to play what Nick Wright had to say about this, and then I want to come back and react to the show. Take a listen to that there.
Let me say the last thing on this. I don't think this was premeditated by LeBron. I actually think it was spur of the moment. I think it was.
Yeah, he's more calculating than that.
He's right there. You know what? I'm going to go tell him, you know what I mean, how I feel. And I also think that we, as kind of opinion shapers in the media, need to be honest about our own biases and affiliations. Everybody knows that, because I've been very open with it, that I have a real friendship and personal relationship with Maverick, that I have a business relationship to a degree with Rich, and that I have a relationship with LeBron. I've been very, very clear about that. I think if you are going to be the most prominent member of sports media and not be forward-facing with, we talk about this GOAT debate a lot. One of the guys involved texts me on the regular, and the other guy refuses to talk to me and has refused to talk to me for the better part of a decade, and that might color part of my commentary. I don't love that. I just don't love it.
So you heard what Nick Wright had to say. I want to take Nick Wright's side on one part, and I've been saying it. Given the fact that now LeBron has refused to communicate with Stephen A. Smith for over 10 years, the part that I don't understand in all of this, and I keep saying it, why is he kissing these guys' butt so much? Is it in his contract? I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand it. If LeBron has made it clear that he's not messing with you, why are you going out of your way to kiss his butt? Why? Because to me, it's almost like you're in an abusive relationship. You keep going back for more abuse. You can go on TV and say all of the stuff that you say about LeBron. Oh, I think LeBron is this. I think LeBron is that. I think LeBron is this player. I think he's the greatest for this. I think he's the great. He don't care. He don't care, bro. He don't care. You don't understand it. He's just like watching you like, look at this fool. Dance for me. Dance, mother. Dance for me. And at the end, I'm still not going to mess with you. After all of that twerking and saying nice things and saying this and saying, he still don't mess with you. And the part I don't get, I said it on the show yesterday, we did the Patrick Bet-David show. Why do you want these people to like you so much? I don't get that. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Why do you care if he talks to you or not? You're not a beat writer. You can make money without him communicating with you. So why do you feel the need to even try to communicate? Why? That's the part I don't get. I can understand if maybe you need something from him, or you know your business is tied to him, and I need to make sure I manage this relationship properly and all of that. That's one thing. But if it doesn't, then why do you care? Look, you guys, they're making all of this money. Why are you still twerking? You make all of this money. Why do you feel this need to constantly capitulate and bend yourself this way and bend yourself that way? And let me say it this way, and let me say it that way, and let me contort myself that way. As long as you're not on TV slandering somebody, insulting them, swearing at them and all of that, then what's the purpose of all of this? It really matters. I'm beginning to realize it really matters to these guys. Maybe it's because I don't care. Maybe it's because I don't care. Bro, I said it a million times. As long as I got a good relationship with my close friends, my family, my daughter, and all of that, my wife. I don't care. Don't talk to me if you don't like to. Like my mother used to always tell me, if it doesn't add to your bottom line, don't waste a single second on. If it's not adding to my bottom line, why do I care if you're talking to me or not? How can I be here, sitting here as me? I can go talk to my daughter, my 1.5-year-old, and play with her. When I can go do that, then I'm not going to be thinking about that. I'm going to be worrying about so-and-so person don't want to talk to me. And I got money in my pocket. What? That's the part I don't get. So after all of that twerking Stephen A. Smith has been doing, he still don't mess with you. Now Nick Wright is even saying it's because he don't talk to you, you've been being negative. But I don't even think Stephen A. Smith is being negative about LeBron, to be honest with you. Sometimes he calls him on his nonsense and his antics, and half of the time he's twerking for him on TV. And what you have realized, and what we all realize, is if you don't say nice things about them 100% of the time, they're not going to want to mess with you. Bro, I don't know. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. I feel like we're in high school. You know how you really want to be down with the cool kids? Like, I want to be down. I don't care about that no more, bro. We're all grown-ass men. Who cares about being down with the cool kids? Are you serious? Are you serious? Look at most men that have families and are serious people. If you see them on vacation, travel anywhere, who do you see them with? The majority of the time, who do you see them with? Who? Who do you see them with? Either their kids, right? Their kids, or their immediate close friends. That's it. That is it. I'm planning a trip this summer with my family. I got my close friend Marco and all of that, but I'm not like, man, I got to make sure I can go with that guy. Man, am I thinking about that? And then I'm thinking about you. So I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get why these guys want to be friends with these dudes so much when it doesn't benefit, when it has nothing to do with the monetary. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know why it matters so much. I don't know. It was last year. I forgot when specifically last year, but there was this campaign that was going on the internet, which was, we're done with the 90s. We're done with the 90s. We're done with the 90s. I didn't know where. We're done with the 90s. We're done with the 90s. We're done with the 90s. I started hearing various voices saying, oh, players in the past weren't that good. You had the JJ Redicks of the world calling Bob Cousy and all of these guys, a bunch of plumbers and firemen. And there just seemed to be this attack on players from previous eras, all in an attempt to magnify this era and prop it up and say, this is the greatest thing that we've seen since sliced bread, right? This current era here. You saw so many back and forths on ESPN between Chris Mad Dog Russo, JJ Redick, and you've seen on other platforms people going at players in the 90s, going to Michael Jordan's era. There were even videos of people posting videos of that Michael Jordan couldn't go left. They were putting up videos of players in the 90s having certain calls called against them and all of this. And I'm like, wait, what is going on here? And I've always maintained that the reason that these guys are doing this is because they want to make this era seem the greatest. So they can be like, well, you see, man, these are the greatest players we've ever seen in our lives because, look, they're playing in the most magnificent era that we've ever seen in basketball, when the fact of the matter is that wasn't the case whatsoever. So what happened? Yesterday, Stephen A. Smith was on ESPN First Take with Chris Mad Dog Russo, and they were reacting to some things that was being said, that had been said, by Rich Paul on the Pat McAfee show. He went on there, they spoke about some various things, but then they got to a point where they were talking about players not chasing ghosts of the past, chasing the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordan, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, the Bill Russells, the list goes on to Magic Johnsons, Larry Bird, all of them. And they tabled that issue on ESPN First Take and asked the panel to react to what Rich Paul said. And Stephen A. Smith decided to take it in a different direction. He decided to expose the real reason Rich Paul and these guys are saying these things. The real reason they've had this campaign against the Michael Jordan era and tried to ruin Michael Jordan's era. And I think Stephen A. Smith was 100% on the money with his description. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. But smarter people see through it. Dumber people can't. So what we want to do now is we're going to play what Stephen A. Smith had to say. We also want to play what Chris Mad Dog Russo had to say in response towards the tail end of that. And then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to these guys here.
All right. So Rich Paul also weighed in on not wanting young players to chase the NBA GOATs of the past. Take a listen to what he said on Pat McAfee.
For those that have the platforms to talk about the sport, they're going to always lean and be biased towards when they played and/or the previous years, but it's supposed to get better. There's an evolution, right? And so we have to allow that to be the same in our sport, and not just try to judge these guys and have them chase goats all the time. Cousy was great for his time. Pistol Pete was great for his time, but what would Kyrie Irving do in that time?
I mean, this is right up your alley.
Oh, my God, here we
Thoughts
go
on
again
that?
now.
Chasing ghosts of the past?
Listen, Cousy would be great today if you didn't think he was a great player, unbelievable ball handler. Now, listen, he wasn't going to shoot the ball as well, but it's a different era. The athlete is advanced, and if that's what Rich means, he happens to be right. I'll tell you right now, though, all right, and I've been around, so is Stevie. Jordan played now 30 years ago. All right, that's not 10. That's over a generation ago, and he's still the best player of all time. So you can talk about LeBron, anybody you want. There's nobody better than Jordan. And his career began in 1984 and 1985. That's 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a long time. That's a ghost that's never going to change. There's Cousy with those great passes, Russell on the break. Oh, I love that stuff. But I would say Jordan, and nobody's better than that guy right there, Bird. But I would think that Jordan, and Steve would agree, that's a ghost, Steve, that for the next 100 years, I don't care what the advancement of the athlete is, Jordan is going to be the guy that I'm always going to compare somebody to because he's that good. MJ.
Rich Paul and I talk often enough. And the one thing that I will give him a lot of credit for is his consistency. He doesn't go on the airwaves and say stuff that he doesn't say to you directly. And I give him a lot of credit for that. But I've also gotten on him on many occasions in my own defense for this very point. They say, whether it's Rich Paul as an agent in an agency or it's the players themselves, they say it as a point of contention because their belief is that it minimizes and diminishes the accomplishments of today's players. I look at it differently. I think the conversation elevates the players in the annals of history because you're talking about them. Dr. J had to deal with the David Thompsons, the Connie Hawkins comparisons. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had to deal with the Wilt Chamberlain comparisons, the Bill Russells and others. Whether, Doggy will appreciate this, the Artist Gilmores, the Bob Laniers of the world. They had to deal with the comparisons of the same big men. You had shooters like Downtown Freddie Brown and Ricky Pierce and Dale Ellis and Del Curry and others, and Bird, of course. Shooters that followed, the Ray Allens, the Allen Houstons of the world, and others had to deal, the Reggie Millers of the world, had to deal with those comparisons. Respectfully, the only people who whined and moaned about it were these players. Doggy, back me up here. When we talked about errors, previous errors with those players, whether it be Jordan, whether it be Reggie Miller, whether it be any of the, they didn't complain about comparisons to the past. They embraced it because they recognized from an historical context and an historical perspective, simply talking about them put them in a position where they would be considered years after their playing days were over because their performances had warranted discussions about their legacies in basketball history. This generation uses it as an excuse to whine and moan about it. Why, Molly? Why, Doggy? Because you're looking at today's atmosphere of social media and beyond, and they want to say everybody has a voice. That's not the only reason. They've utilized those outlets and those assets to monetize their brands. And so anything that you say about them that isn't of the loftiest of praises is considered something that's potentially compromising their brand and what their agenda is for their brand. That is what they get caught up in. And I'm just saying they're looking at it wrong. Just because they are doesn't mean we're not. When we talk about these guys, we're actually celebrating them by comparing them to yesteryear because we're recognizing that their greatness commands that level of attention.
Yeah. They're just hearing it a lot more because there's a lot more platforms between podcasts and social media and television. So it's constant.
And let's face it, one other thing. The one thing that the young athlete or the young fan or the young talk show host, the one thing they don't know anything about is history. I have found out to be the case.
I mean, I'm a very young talk show host.
I mean, you've heard about Pussy.
I didn't hear your answer, Doggy. You said the one thing they didn't know about was what?
History of any fan base. They think the sport began when they started following it.
Okay.
And that drives me crazy. Well, who's Sandy Koufax? What? I never heard of him. He can't be that good. Wilt Chamberlain. You saw Wilt, one of the great athletes of all time. People don't know Wilt Chamberlain. You know how good an athlete that Wilt Chamberlain was? He one of the great high jumpers.
Phenomenal.
Oh my God!
They changed the rules. They changed the rules, Molly. They changed the rules because of him.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. I want to start with what Chris Mad Dog Russo said at the tail end, which is the fact that he noticed that a lot of fans don't know anything about the history of sports. Look, what he said is a very, very, very pertinent thing. Not only do a lot of younger guys not know anything about the NBA beyond this current era that they're watching, there seems to be this love of ignorance. There seems to be like this acceptance of stupidity and just ignorance. It's like, yeah, we don't know anything and we're proud about it. And then what they try to do to make themselves feel even good, because they like to relish in it, it's like pigs in mud, man, relishing in the stupidity. They'll say, oh, man, these are old heads. These are old heads. As if to say, like, we're the ones that are disadvantaged because we have more information. I'm lost here. I'm lost, bro. You're looking down on people that have more information than you. You have less information than them, but somehow you feel like you're winning this thing. You're arguing with less information, but yet you feel like you're winning this thing. How can you possibly win a debate when you don't have all the information? The only information you have is what you're seeing now. Then you're arguing with people who have the information that you currently have, and they have information that you don't have, meaning they've seen this era and they've seen eras in the past. But you feel like you know something, but you don't. It's almost like this adolescent mentality. Like, let's be for real. When we were all teenagers, we were dumb. It's dumb as hell. Like let's be for real. The vast majority of us, we thought we knew everything, but we was dumb as hell. But now that mentality is graduating into people in their early 20s. They're still moving with this stupidity. It's like the less information, or rather, let's look down on people that have more information than us. Oh, man, he's old head. Oh, man, he's old head. They don't know. Oh, he's old head. But what are you in diapers? What are you in diapers? Like I'm lost with this. Oh, man, he's an old head. Hey, man, I'm 36 years old. Oh, man, he's an old head. I'm not even going to say what I want to say. I almost said something I wasn't even supposed to say. I almost said something I wasn't even supposed to say. But trust and believe. Them dudes in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, getting everything you want. Everything you want in life, they getting it. Everything you want in life, they got it. So you laughing at them, you don't even realize you ain't got nothing. All them things you be desiring, they don't be looking for you. So I just be sitting here laughing with it. And some of y'all can read through the lines and some of y'all can't. Most likely the dudes that don't know nothing. So to me, it's just like, look, he brings up a good point. Now, to Stephen A. Smith's point, bro, it's so obvious. It's so obvious what they're doing. They're trying to ruin those. Look, there are a few things that are going on. Number one, they're trying to tarnish the legacy, or rather the era of Michael Jordan. Why? You see, what they discovered was they cannot win their GOAT debates with Michael Jordan head on. They realized that a long time ago. These guys can't do it. So what they then started to do was, since they can't attack him, they tried to attack the people around him. They tried to attack his era. It's like, oh, well, he was good, but all those other guys weren't good, so that's why he was so good. That's what they're doing. Because they know they can't win the debate head up. They can't put their favorite player against Jordan. It ain't going to work because it never works. So they said, you know what? We can't win that argument. Nobody's taking it seriously because we shouldn't be taken seriously. So you know what? Let's attack Jordan's era and try to say that his era was weak. And then therefore, we can say, well, yes, he has all of those accolades. But look, his competition was weak. These guys couldn't play basketball. They couldn't even go left. Right? That's what they're trying to do. All in an attempt to elevate this era to say, you see, look what my favorite player is doing. He's doing it in a tougher era. So you see, look, he's better. It's so what be killing me is that dumb dudes be thinking they outsmarting smart people. It's crazy. You ever notice something? It be the dumbest people. The dumbest people that think they can outsmart smart people or successful. You ever notice that? You ever notice the dumbest people think they can outsmart rich people? You ever notice that? Have you ever noticed that? It's like, if you're so smart, why are they doing better than you? If you're so smart, with all of the smarts that you have, why are they doing better than you? They think they can outsmart you. Like, I'm going to throw this at them and they won't see me coming. They never saw it. Every time we can see through what you're doing. It's ridiculous. It's lame. I'm calling it out. A lot of people are calling. We know what you're doing. Now, if we want to get into competition and all of that, well, we're going to talk about that week East, when you got teams making the playoffs with losing below 500 records. But we're not going to talk about that. And most of them don't even know that, which goes back to the point that Chris Mad Dog Russo was alluding to. It goes back to that point. So we all peep the game. But what's hilarious is that they think they're getting it over people. Like, man, they don't really notice what we're doing here. They don't really notice what we're doing. How you going to call yourself the GOAT if you can't compare yourself to nobody? Think about the stupidity, the underlying stupidity. How can you say this guy's the GOAT, but you don't want to compare him to people? So based off of what? Is he the GOAT by himself, or is he not the best in comparison to somebody else?